Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Yep.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneurial Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. Here is this brother. I have been for years, and he doesn't even know this, I've been trying to interview him because he epitomizes what it means to be a true entrepreneur and fighting the government at all costs. Welcome to the platform, my brother, Ed, or Mr. Weedman. How are you, sir?
I'm all right in yourself.
I'm doing, huh?
And it's New Jersey weed, man.
Oh.
I put a whole promo into that. NJWeedman.
Okay, Mr. NJWeedman. All right, so let's get started. So here you are. You've got a legal cannabis operation across from City Hall in Trenton, New Jersey, but it always hasn't been that. So take us back to the beginning. How did you begin to want to have this cannabis business, and how did we begin to know who you are?
Well, I mean, if I take it way back, I've always thought of selling weed as a business.
Yes.
Both of my parents as a child were business owners. My mother still runs a business that she's had for 45 years. My father retired, but there was a period of time where he was a truck driver. He had dump trucks and bulldozers, so he ran his own business. So I always looked at being an entrepreneur anyway. And early on, when I started selling weed, I looked at it as a business. I mean, it made more money than my regular job.
Yeah.
I saved my money and flipped my money and regulated my money in a way like a business person would, not like some drug dealer who bought a pair of sneakers and a new car every time he got $1,000 either.
Yeah.
So, and I was always looking to expand. I was always looking to different markets. I always looked for different sources. So I always looked at it as a business, but that really didn't occur until I got out of the Army.
Yes.
I got out of the Army in 1990. By 1992, I had my own truck. Again, my father was a truck driver, so I was leaning towards that direction. And I bought a coast-to-coast truck. I started coast-to-coast trucking, which brought me to Arizona and Southern California. So I started shipping weed back to the East Coast, trucking weed back to the East Coast. I used to joke. It was like, man, I was a smuggler. Sure, I drove trucks. I had legitimate loads.
Yes.
But I also mixed in my legitimate loads, good amounts of marijuana, and I'd bring it back to the East Coast. And
Let me stop you for a second, because first of all, I want to say thank you for your service, man, your service and your sacrifice. Now, so even though you knew that marijuana was illegal, even when you had to take a load out to California or to Arizona, you were still inquiring about picking up weed.
Oh yeah, listen, it got to the point where I would get loads to where I can get marijuana like that. That was my more my objective sometimes.
Yeah.
Even like going to Washington State or Oregon.
Yes.
I'd end up heading up to like Bellingham, Washington.
Yes.
If you look at a map, Bellingham, Washington is just a few miles south of the Canadian border on I-5 in Washington State. There was lots and lots of Canadian Vancouver, BC bud, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
in like Bellingham, just like if I went to like Tucson, Arizona, or Phoenix, Arizona, it was all kinds of Mexican bud on the U.S. side of the border. So, as a trucker, I could buy me 40 pounds, 100 pounds, this, that, and the other, and truck it all the way across the country. And that's how I first started. After a while, I started, others would put in, and sometimes whoever I was buying it would, I'd pay for half, and they put half in, and I was trucking 400 and 500 pounds at a time.
And you were never concerned about a roadblock or a truck stop or your truck breaking down and the agents coming after you or somebody trying to squeal on you. You were never concerned about that.
Of course, I was concerned about it. I had a couple very, very scary trips. Actually, I did that up until 1996. From 91, I guess it was, till 96, I was trucking it. In 96, I had a very scary trip where I had over 100 pounds of weed on me, and I got stopped 5 times between California and New Jersey. And each time was terrifying because each time I thought I was getting ready to go to prison. Yes. I remember the one stop in Arkansas. I was at the Texarkana, Arkansas side of the Texas Arkansas border, because Texarkana is a city where it sits right on the border between Arkansas and Texas on I-20.
Yes.
And I was on the Arkansas side of the line, and I got pulled over by a DOT cop.
Wow.
And he was in the middle of getting ready to search me. He already did my paperwork. He already searched my truck. He was about ready to search my trailer. And my dog, I had a dog named Buster.
Yes.
My dog got hit by a truck and killed.
Wow.
And the police officer was a dog lover too, so he was just upset as me about it. And it ended my drug search. I was going to jail that day in Arkansas. My whole life would have changed had Buster and I got hit by a truck. Took one for the team. I carried him all the way back to New Jersey, buried him. He's still buried behind my mom's house.
Wait.
And
Buster jumped out of the truck?
Well, what happened was a very well-trained dog. So
Yes.
I took him out of the truck.
Yes.
And he was sitting next to the truck on the concrete.
Gotcha.
I don't know, right? And dogs, they don't like peeing on the concrete. They go pee in the dirt.
Yes.
Right? So he was sitting next to me, but then the cop was about ready to search my truck. He already found my gun. Like, I just knew I was going to prison. And when we started walking to the back of the truck for him to open the doors to go in the back, he had already went to the back of the truck. He had already opened the truck, and he looked across the top of the load, and he asked how come there were footprints across the top of the load.
Wow.
Because normally when you load a truck, you load it with a forklift, you put it all in,
yes,
you drive away. And, but when people pack a load where they would climb across the top, take some whatever the product is, take it out, dump it on the ground, and fill up the boxes with marijuana, and then close it back.
Yes.
That particular load, it was cantaloupes, actually.
Yes.
And I dumped about 20 boxes of cantaloupes and had a bunch of 113 pounds of weed in the boxes, and I know it was 113 pounds of weed because I had really had 115. But I had a cousin in Arizona, and at some point, my cousin asked me if he can get some of the weed. So he climbed, and I told him to take his shoes off. And he did not take his shoes off. To this day, I still say things to him like, "Yo, remember that time you ain't take the shoes off and killed my dog?" But that's what happened. When I told him to go ahead, I wasn't going to dig it out. You can dig it out and put it all back in right.
Yes.
And he climbed across the top of the load without taking his shoes off, just like I knew wasn't supposed to do.
Yes.
And he got it out. And I remember when I closed the doors, I was like, "Oh man, you ain't take your shoes off."
Wow.
And I just kind of like blew it off, no problem. But when that cop opened the trunk in Arkansas, he saw footprints across the top of the load. So he asked me about the footprints across the top of the load.
Yes. And
I was like, I don't know. I was like playing dumb.
Yes.
And then right about then, I saw him make a face.
Yes.
And what happened was my dog was sitting next to the truck behind me.
Yes.
And the cop was facing me, talking to me. And like I said, he'd already found my gun, so I already thought I was going to jail. And now he's getting ready to find 100 pounds of weed, and I'm in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know I'm going to prison.
Yes.
And I see him make this face. I turn around. I see my dog do the last quiver, the last shake. His name was Buster.
Yes.
And I was upset. I broke into tears. I was in tears because yes, my dog was dead, but also like, oh no, I'm going to prison in Arkansas. he didn't know that's what I was talking. I wrote a book called Public Enemy Number 420.
Yes. And
there's a chapter in the book called Buster.
Yes.
Where I explained that trip that happened. That's what the trip is about.
Wow.
That's what that chapter is about.
Wow.
But what happened was, at that point, he helped me load the dog into the back of the truck. He basically apologized and told me to go down the road and go to sleep. Now I rode all the way to Jersey from there.
Wow.
But he told me to go down the road and go to sleep.
I ain't stopping, brother.
I ain't stopped no more. I stopped for gas. That was it.
Yeah.
I stopped for fuel. That was it. But that was like my last trip. After that, I rented a plane or two once or twice.
Okay.
I was shipped small things. In '97, I got busted. But from '91 to '97, I built up a nice little lump sum of money. Acquired a couple of things, a little house, and a little this, a little that, and a couple nice cars. I think I had a Corvette and a Jaguar when I got busted. And all of it was gone. It's 9 months. Wow. But that's when I started advocating publicly, really legalizing marijuana. I was running for office with the whole concept of jury nullification. That's the time period where most people our age first heard me in the late 90s. Yes. And it was really because I was facing some charges. Yes. Most people didn't really understand that. I was trying to pollute the jury with my statements. Anything they say and do, anything you say and do will be used against you. Yeah. That's what the Miranda rights say. Yes. Well, everything has a reciprocal. So I looked at it as the reciprocal of that. Anything you say and do can be used against you or for you. Yeah. In my case, I want all them statements that I was saying to the press and the public and all that to be used for me when I was in trial. Yeah. So I can say, my jurors would know. They would hear it. So I was being unrepentant. In my case, I was like, well, I got busted for marijuana. Now I'm publicly talking about marijuana in a positive way. I want the prosecutors to use this against me because there'd be people on the jury that would feel for me. Yes. Which a lot of people are like, man, you talk yourself into jail. And I'm like, no, this is marijuana, man. This is not, it's not like I killed somebody and then I'm running around on TV talking about he should be dead. I did it on purpose. I shot him. And, it's not like that. It's the opposite. Marijuana should be legal. Yeah, I smoke marijuana every day. Yeah, all my friends smoke marijuana. Yeah, you want to smoke? You want to get high? Just stand to my left. You know what I mean? So I was polluting the jury pool. The press was loving it because I was like the only guy doing that on the East Coast, especially. Absolutely. And I don't know, and I petitioned to change my name to NJWeedman, and the hype and the press worked for me. Yes. That first trial, I got busted. I got busted with 40 pounds, and that first trial, I was 3 days into my trial. 2 jurors had already were crying. One lady cried right after jury selection. Got kicked off the jury. And then on the third day, another lady cried. The juror cried. Yes. And she made a mistake to say out loud that she couldn't convict this man. She got kicked off the jury. And again, I'm saying things that were like, it should be legal. Nobody should do 40 years in prison. 30. Yeah. I was thinking of facing 30 years. I said nobody should do 30 years in prison for a plant. I was saying things like that. And then I wasn't supposed to say certain things. Yeah. But I would say it. You can't unhear things. I was representing myself too. So everything I was saying, I was getting to talk to the jury. I did jury selection. I did everything. I questioned the cop who busted me. I did everything. And I kept just dropping things. Yeah. And so the third day in the trial, this lady said, I can't send this man to prison. And they kicked her off the jury, but everybody in the courtroom could see that I had people on my side who were agreeing with the things I was saying. Yes. So the prosecutor offered me a sweetheart deal.
Wow.
So I had got caught with what I was on trial for. I got caught with 40 pounds.
Yes.
And a couple months after that first bust, I got caught with 15 pounds too.
Yes.
And then with the stress of everything, I also was down in Atlantic City one night, got drunk, and lost a bunch of money, and then took my money back and walked out the casino. And I caught a charge for that too. Yeah. So I caught like 3 charges.
Wow.
And then I go to trial. This is the year 2000. I think back that year I was doing all kinds of things for publicity. I went to Congressman Rob Andrews' office and smoked a joint in his office. I went to the Democratic Party headquarters and smoked a joint in their office.
Yeah.
I went to the State House right here in Trenton and smoked a joint during the full state assembly hearing.
Wow.
And all this was to pollute my jury.
Yes.
And then in 2000, I actually went on trial. I was doing very well, like I said. Several jurors cried and got off my jury.
Yes.
The prosecutor went from me facing those 3 charges, which the first one was a first-degree charge. I could have got 20 years. The second one was a second-degree charge for the 15 pounds. I could have got 10 years for that. And then for the theft for unlawful taking, that's what I got charged with, for taking my money back at the casino.
That's the funniest one.
Yeah, it was. And the crazy thing was, I have never done nothing while high on marijuana that I was embarrassed about to get busted for. But that public intoxication that happened to me in the casino, with the casino feeding me drinks, and I admit I went in the casino with like 20 grand. I was down to like 3 grand. And I just reached at some point it just hit me like, what the hell did you just do?
Yeah. And
I reached across the table, like I didn't scream, I didn't yell, nothing. And I just grabbed a handful of orange chips. There was $1,000 chips that day. And I just turned around and I just started walking. Nobody grabbed me.
Yeah.
1 or 2 chips fell and hit the floor, so a couple people went scrambling for them. And I walked out the casino. Later, they caught me anyway by video and everything. They backtracked and all that.
Yeah.
And they identified me later and all that. But I got out of the casino. But when I was on trial, and it looked like I was going to win, they offered me a sweetheart deal. And I said no, because you'll give me a sweetheart deal on this one, and then the next 2 cases, you're going to hammer me on it.
Yeah.
That's when the lady. So I said no to the deal. We resumed trial, and that's when the lady started crying.
Wow.
So now the prosecutor knew I was getting ready to win. So then he offered put all 3 cases together.
Yes.
Gave me a universal plea, is what they call it. It's the only time I took a plea, by the way. And I took that plea because I was facing 33 years in prison. I wouldn't have done that. Probably would have done 12.
Yeah.
But either way, I was facing 33 years in prison, and I took that plea. But I scared the prosecutor. The prosecution was scared that I was going to win. That I was going to get not guilty. The whole thing where I had, and I took the plea, and I made a stipulation. The only way I'm going to take this plea off is if I get to poll the jury. And the judge, I remember, isn't it Judge Thompson, Ronald Thompson? I remember Judge Thompson saying, I've never had a defendant demand that as part of accepting his plea. He said, I'm curious, though. And he said he's curious, too. So we called the jurors back in. I told the jurors, thank you for doing your service and this, that, and the other. I said, I think I've decided I'm going to take this plea bargain, though. They've offered me a good deal, and I think I'm going to save some of my freedom, and I'm going to take it. But the judges allowed me to question the jurors to see how many of you were going to vote not guilty. And out of 12, I had 5.
Wow.
So I was so upset that everything I had prepared for, all that talking I had done, all that talking about jury nullification, in and out of the paper, calling myself NJWeedman, it was working. It worked. And then at the last second, like I said, they basically bribed me out of my trial because they offered me a sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
And I went to prison with the understanding I was going to do 3 to 6 months in prison and get ISP. 17 months later, by the way, I was still in prison. And here's another interesting little story.
Let me stop you for a second, because I this is good, but I want to ask this question, right?
Go for it.
Legitimately, you were in the service. Could you have applied for legal or medical marijuana? Because
none of that existed. I got out of the Army in 1990. None of that existed before that.
Okay, got you.
And then when I got out of the Army, and I still wanted to see the world.
Got you.
And that's why I bought a truck and started trucking.
Okay.
All across the country. And then I realized that out on the West Coast, like places like Arizona, you can buy marijuana for $300 a pound and bring it back to New Jersey and sell it for $1,200 a pound. Or I can go to places like Northern California or the Canadian border and buy some really good quality bud for $800 a pound and bring it back to New Jersey and get $2,000 a pound. Yeah. And my mom did not raise a dummy.
Yeah.
I was able to, I could add numbers very fast and very fast. The supply and demand is great. It still exists to this day, not with such drastic numbers, but amongst my friends, amongst the people I knew, I was the only dude that can go out west and come back 4 or 5 days later and over the next 2 weeks make $50,000.
Yes.
I had relatives who were busting their butts working hard, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, 2 weeks of vacation, so they can go spend $5,000 in Florida.
Yeah.
And I was hustling up $20, $30, $40, $50,000 at a time, and halfway not working.
Yeah.
And I treated it all like a business. I treated it like a business. Now that they're not busting people no more, that it's become legal, I really do operate a business. But it's the same business. It's the same exact business. There's like very little has changed. The fact that I have a building now. I have a couple buildings now.
Yes.
But I've always treated it like a business. Getting back to your original question, I always treated it like a business. There were times in the 90s when I was a smuggler and selling weed. I had employees, they worked for me. I'd bring back the package and they would get rid of it.
Yes.
And I acquired things then too. And, and I always treated my employees well. They always got paid good. Still to this day, my employees are always happy with their pay.
Yes.
Sometimes they get mad at me about other things, but they never complain about the pay.
About the pay. Got you.
No, even my employees right now. As far as business wise goes, entrepreneurial, I've always been what I would call the businessman. The fact that the government called me a drug dealer didn't really make a difference to me.
Yes.
But now I've actually, I've proved everybody wrong. I'm like the last man standing. When in the 90s and early 2000s, when I was still fighting the government, still holding the bullhorn and making the papers all the time for one reason or the other. I was considered a drug dealer. I thought I was a businessman, but I was considered a drug dealer. And then a shift came around.
Yes.
I'd say between 2000. In 2008, I went out to California and actually got a dispensary, and I ran a dispensary for 4 years before ultimately, that's a whole nother story, but ultimately the DEA came and shut me down, which brought me back to New Jersey. That's a whole nother story. That's also in my book, though.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother story. But I came back to New Jersey in 2013.
Yes.
Or 14, my bad. And when I came back, part of the reason why I came back, or most of the reason why I came back, is because the state of New Jersey reached out to California and got the California authorities to ruin me. Okay. So I did the whole, I'm General MacArthur and I'm coming back. When I came back to New Jersey, and that's why I showed up in Trenton, because I'm from Sicklerville.
Yes.
I did all these things in Sicklerville when nobody gave two craps about it. Then some dude in Sicklerville said what, and then the Winslow Township Police Department would have arrested me, and that would have been the end of me. Yes. But when I came here to Trenton, the state capital, I planted myself across the street from the city hall,
Yes.
and went to war. It didn't make a difference who was in that building across the street from me.
Yes.
To me, that building represented government,
Yes.
and I was David fighting the Goliath of government.
Yes.
And here in Trenton, there's a press corps, there's a press row. All the
Yes.
major newspapers in the state have an office here. All the major television stations, from Channel 6 to Fox 29 to the New York stations, all have a Jersey bureau.
Yes.
So right here in Trenton, I got the publicity I wanted. That's why I went national when I came to Trenton. I got national attention because
Yes.
I came to Trenton. People thought I was crazy, and I knew I wasn't crazy.
But you know it's so funny. This is my first time actually talking to you. I've spoken to you several times when I've come into your shop, but this is my first time really talking to you, right? But I remember when the Trentonian and Trenton Times was very active at that time. You would be on the cover, and they would often talk about how you were buying this building across the street from City Hall. And I would be sitting with my buddies, and I'm like, this is a wacky dude. I don't think he's functioning with everything.
Yep. Everybody thought that. But I had a long-term vision, man. I still think that way. I think in long terms all the time.
Yes.
And I had that vision.
Yes.
You know, just a little sidetrack
Yes.
for a second. You know, everybody in history, way back history that you can think of,
Yes.
they all spoke to the future.
Absolutely.
Whether you're talking about like a guy like Shakespeare or King James or some of them Greek guys or
Yes.
Westerdamus, they all knew that their mortality was 40, 50, 60 years, but they spoke to the future. They did things knowing 2, 3, 4, 500,000 years in the future, people would know them. And because I knew that, I have always operated the same way. My little narcissism in me is I know right now where I'm living now, the things I do now, things I'm doing. There's going to be 1,000 years from now, 500 years from now, 200 years from now. There's going to be some kid saying, "That's my great 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 uncle right there." That's my great 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 grandfather.
Yes.
And look at the things he was doing back then. And this is the greatest
entrepreneur I admire. I'm doing it just like he did. I got you, brother. I feel you, man.
Yeah. No, you know how many people come up to me now asking me for help doing this, help doing that. I don't know how many dispensaries I've helped open around the state.
Yes.
I have no idea because dudes that show up, man. I freely talk to people. As long as I have some time to do it, I'll talk to people.
Yes.
And I'm not saying I'm some MIT guy, some University of Penn great businessman and all that. I'm not saying that, but I have great common knowledge.
Yes, you do.
I can rationalize a lot of things, and I can speak in a way that makes people understand. Even if, when I was a kid, I would have, especially one of my uncles used to always say, "I don't know, what's wrong with you, boy? Why do you read from right to left?
Yes.
Everybody else is reading from left to right."
Yes.
And I don't know, I have always thought a little bit different. I've always done things a little bit different, but those things have worked for me. I mean, several times I've gotten on the verge of being very rich, and then the police came. Right now, police haven't bothered me in 5, 6 years, and I done got myself, I don't want to brag, but I've got myself kind of rich.
Yeah.
I've got a couple buildings right here in Trenton. I got 3 buildings here in Trenton.
Yes.
I got business in Florida. I got 2 businesses in Florida, and I do very well.
Yes.
And the beginnings of all that was my, should I say, my smuggling, my marijuana sales. But some of those things that I learned from my parents as far as businesses and stuff goes, and they all applied even when I was doing the drug dealing. Now it's business, man.
Now let me ask this question, and this is personal. What is your religious understanding? What's your religious philosophy?
Man, you done hit the $1 million question because it's changed over the years.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm African American, Black.
Yes.
So most of us are the product of slavery.
Yes.
Most of us were forced to be Christians. And so as a kid, both my parents were Christian, were brought up in a Christian church. And I'd say I had a eye awakening experience in 1977. I was 12 years old.
Yes.
When the movie Roots came out. And I was able to visualize slavery. And I watched slavery. And I remember, as I watched that movie, I think it was in September, October, by December of 1977, I was demanding of my parents to let me go to an Islamic temple, which wasn't far from me. I did not want to be a Christian because I looked at it like, wait a minute, slavery ended 150 years ago.
Yes.
Black people were forced to be Christians through the institution of slavery. Well, slavery ended 150 years ago, so why are we still Christians? Why are we? I'm not a slave. I don't want to be a Christian. So that was my philosophy when I was like 12 years old.
Okay.
And just so happens there was an Islamic church, number 7, Islamic temple number 7 in Williamstown, New Jersey.
Yes.
And one of my cousins was my cousin's whole family. They were Muslim, and they went to that church. They went to that temple, and I demanded after seeing Root that I wanted to go there too. I didn't want to be a Christian. So for a couple of years, I went there. At least 3 years, I went there. And then I got just as disillusioned then too. I started thinking the same thing. Like, I didn't really believe in the story of Jesus, and then I didn't really believe in Muhammad. And I think by the time I went in the army at 18, I was about 21. By the time I was 21. I was calling myself an agnostic. Like, I did not believe I believed that there was something, but no, I don't want to believe in the white man's Jesus. No, I don't want to believe in the Arabs, Muslims, the Arabs, Muhammad.
Yes.
I don't know. I think there's something, whether you call it Mother Nature or what, there was something. So then, throughout my 20s mostly, I called myself an agnostic because I was afraid to say the word atheist.
Yes.
But I call myself an agnostic. In the 90s, I really got hooked on Bob Marley. That music-wise,
yes.
Listening to Rastafarian music, and
yes.
I started meeting Jamaicans, and I was in this business where I was dealing with Jamaicans a lot. When I was bringing a bunch of weed back from the West Coast, I was selling it to Jamaicans in Philly and New York and North Jersey, a lot of it. So I was meeting Jamaicans, and Jamaicans, when they realized my birthday
yes.
was July the 23rd.
Yes.
July the 23rd is the same day as Haile Selassie.
Wow.
And also all I kept hearing when I started meeting Jamaicans and they find out when my birthday was, they would be like, you share the creation day. And then I just got interested in Rastafarianism.
Yes. And
for a few years, I called myself a Rasta. That was when I started growing dreads. That's
yes.
when I stopped eating meat, started eating ITEL. I went through that whole little period of time for about 4 or 5 years again. I slowly drifted out of that. By then, the internet was there. And those early days I was on the internet, I was still considering myself a Rastafarian.
Gotcha.
So it's stuff on the internet. If you Google me and look up my religion, it'll say I'm a Rastafarian because it gets stuck on the internet. You can never take nothing out of the internet. There's a few times you'll find that I'll downplay it, or I'll say, yeah, there was a period of time. But, we live in America. You have a right to freedom of religion. You have the right to change your religion. And I will say that I've evolved. Right now, this day, I still think of myself as spiritual. I think of myself as a good person.
Got you.
I probably follow the 10 Commandments better than some people that step out of church 4 times a week.
You probably do.
Yeah, I do. I know I do.
But the reason why I asked you that question, right, is because as I was doing some prepping, right, I was, as an entrepreneur myself, I was trying in my mind to figure out how did this go where you have this property across from City Hall, but they couldn't touch you. And I'm thinking, did it have something to do with the fact that you were claiming to be a Rastafarian? And maybe the business was registered as a 501c3 and you had to smoke marijuana as a part of your religious institution or religious celebration?
By the time I got here to Trenton, New Jersey, no. But I did go through that period of time when I was doing those were part of my arguments in California. I had a little period in California where I was arguing too.
Yes.
History-wise, I am the first person in America who had a court sanction me being allowed to sell marijuana as a Rastafarian temple. My temple in Los Angeles was called the Liberty Bell Temple.
Yes.
At the time, they were allowing medical marijuana dispensaries.
Yes.
And all right, let me back up. Let me scratch my head and think this out. All right, 2008, I went to LA. I was on the ground. I was on the ground in 2007, but in 2008 in Los Angeles, they gave a deadline. The deadline was in March or April of 2007. I mean, not April, October 2007. That if you had a dispensary before that date, then they were going to let you be legal. And after that date, you were illegal.
Yes.
And I was there. I could see it all happening, but I didn't have the money to open, to have a place, to really have a place. I was still hustling money. When I got to California, I started hustling until at some point in 2008, I had about $30,000 and I rented a building and I wanted to have a dispensary, but I missed the deadline.
Gotcha.
So what I did was I did form a 501(c), I think it is, 3R, which is a religious corporation.
Yes.
I called it a Liberty Bell Temple. And one of my bylaws, I said I was a Rastafarian. And since we have medical marijuana in the state of California, as one of the goals of my temple and my parishioners, that I would be providing medical marijuana to them and spiritually.
Yes.
And, everybody thought I was just as crazy then when I did that. I was on Hollywood Boulevard in LA, in Hollywood. Yes. And people were like, dude, you can't open no Rasta temple like that and just say this, right? And people thought I was crazy. And I was like, nah, man, y'all made this. Y'all forgetting. Like, one of the things I didn't mention here was, as a kid, my mother made me read everything, made me read books, made me so I'm good at Jeopardy because I have a million tidbits of facts in my head that I read as a kid. I read here, I read there. When I was locked up for those 17, 18 months, I spent the whole time in a law library. Anybody who was in prison with me remembers that dude was in the law library every day, even when he wasn't even supposed. After a while, the guards thought I worked there. I ain't worked there. They let me work there. They let me work there. Yes. Like I did almost 18 months, and I spent 15 of it in the law library. Yes. And even when I got violated on parole for 4 months, I got locked up. I demanded to be in the law library, and I read a whole bunch. Yes. When you're locked up in a law library, you read law books. So I read a whole bunch of law books. So one of the best things that ever happened to me was the fact that I got locked up around all these law books. If I was a kid today, and I understood what the law is and these law books and stuff, I would have been a lawyer. I've been a great lawyer too. I already know I would have been a great lawyer, but I didn't know what a lawyer was until I got locked up. Until I encountered legal, the law. Yes. I grew up, like I said, my father was a truck driver. My mom had a business and stuff, but so I kind of looked at everything through that way. Yes. But while I was locked up, I kind of read a whole bunch and got a good understanding of what was going on. I ain't gonna say I'm Perry Mason or nothing, but or what's his name? Johnny Cochran.
Yeah,
I'm not Johnny. Yeah, I ain't know Johnny Cochran. Even though I think I could have pulled off some of those public stunts that he did. Yeah. But no, I wasn't. I'm not a Johnny Cochran or nothing. But I have a very, very good understanding of the legal system. I understand how to shepherdize things. I can follow arguments and motions and things like that. And I basically got that with my crash course at the concrete plantation. But when I went to LA, that's what I did. And for the first couple years, the first 3 years after I did it, nobody bothered me. And then one day, the LA city police came and busted me for having an illegal dispensary. And I went to court. I asked for an injunction, which took months, but I asked for it. And what I argued was that I was not a dispensary. I did every bit said it was a dispensary. I'm a church.
Yeah.
I'm a temple.
Yeah.
And this is and this is part of my my religion, and it's also one of the what word did I use? First, I forget the word I used, but anyway, I'm going to say goal. It was one of the goals of my church,
Okay.
my temple, that was providing marijuana to all my parishioners.
Yes.
Everyone who came in, they had to sign a piece of paper that they can be any religion they want. I ain't care, but you're in a Rasta church, and this is our sacrament. If this is what you want to do, then I will provide it for you. And they became members of my temple. So by time I got busted 3-4 years later, I had like 7,000 pieces of paper with people's names on it saying that they were part of my congregation.
Wow.
So when they busted me, that was my argument to Judge Moyer, was his name, Moher, something like that. But he listened to I had to give it. Every once in a while, I run into judges to really listen to me.
Yes.
And this judge listened to my argument. And one of the things I'll never forget, him telling the prosecutor, well, he walks like a duck, he sounds like a duck, but I don't think he's a duck. He says he's something different. He says, you guys are busting him because y'all say he's a dispensary, a legal dispensary. Well, he says he's not a dispensary, but he walks into action, whatever. I'm going to grant him his injunction. If you want to appeal it, you can appeal it. And he granted me this injunction and basically told the city of Los Angeles to leave me alone.
Wow.
And I was selling marijuana. It wasn't like I was using it. There's a few cases prior to me. I can name some of them if that was the topic right now.
Yeah.
Meeks versus USA is one of them. But anyway, there were several cases about possession or use religiously. There's even peyote cases out there, right? They were prior to this. There's LSD cases prior to this. But I was the first one in 2010 that won a case on distribution. I was distributing marijuana.
Wow.
I'm the only, as far as I know, I'm still the only case that won. I know there's other cases also, but I won in Los Angeles, and people couldn't believe it. Like, wait a minute, this guy, he's not a dispensary. He ain't do none of the paperwork for a dispensary. He opened up a Rasta church, and he won. And I did win. That was in L.A. But
yes.
but ultimately, what happened though is I won. The city of L.A. left me alone.
Yes.
And then in 2013, the U.S. DEA office came and busted me and destroyed me. They didn't prosecute me. They didn't prosecute me probably because they'd already read about my jury nullification arguments, that I'll represent myself. I had already, caught the attention of lawyers and law journals around the country for some of my arguments.
Yes.
So all they did was destroy me. They ruined me. And they ruined me because a prosecutor from New Jersey, from Burlington, New Jersey,
yes.
Michael Luciano, he's an assistant prosecutor in Burlington, in Burlington County. He wrote a letter to the U.S. Attorney's Office in L.A. Alleging that I was part of an interstate drug trafficking ring, talking about marijuana.
Yes.
And he asked for help, and the help they gave him was the U.S. Attorney passed it down to DEA agent Patrick Kelly.
Yes.
When I met DEA agent Patrick Kelly, and you can Google him. He actually is a pretty famous DEA agent right now. He's still active in Washington D.C. He's a spokesman for the DEA out of Washington D.C. right now. But anyway, he when I met him, he basically told me I'm out of business. He wasn't there to put me in prison, but if I was agreeing to be out of business, then I was free to go. And he only held me for four hours. He totally destroyed my whole little empire that I had created. I had a dispensary. I had a lounge. I had 2 big grow operations. A couple other little things that weren't official. But he destroyed me in like 5 hours. And he basically, I laid low in LA for a few months. maybe about 8-9 months, and then I started up again. And within a few days of me starting up, he showed up again and said, "I thought we had a deal." And I was like, "What?" He said, "The deal was you're out of business." He said, "If you're not out of business, you're going to end up in federal prison. You know, you're going to do 85% in your federal prison, and this, that, and the other." And that's what brought me back to New Jersey. And when I came back to New Jersey, I was mad at Michael Luciano, the state prosecutor in Burlington County. But I didn't go plant myself in Burlington County or Camden County. Like I said, I grew up in Sicklerville, it's Camden County. I came to Mercer County to go to war with the state of New Jersey, you know, and that's what I did. People thought I was crazy, you know. So when you was reading about me coming and me opening this place in on State Street, across the street from the state capitol, I know a lot of people made a big fuss about Donald Trump saying that he can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. In 2015, a couple years before him, I said I can sell weed on State Street in New Jersey and get away with it. Everybody thought I was crazy then.
Across the street from the City Hall and get away with it. and then down the street from the federal court building.
But the federal courthouse is 2 doors down from me. If I go the other way, the governor's office in the state capitol is just 5 blocks away. So I wasn't hiding nothing. I was at war, and people thought I was crazy. And to be honest with you, I might have been, because I went to LA. I thought I had everything. I was making $10,000 a day.
Wow!
I got myself in a couple movies.
Yes.
I was living a life. I'm in Hollywood. I'm on Hollywood Boulevard. I'm a celebrity. I'm meeting people. I'm meeting Bobby Brown one day and MC Hammer the next day and Damian Marley. Like I became a little B celebrity myself out there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm around that Flavor Flav, like, he kept calling me Jersey. Like, "Yo, man, you're from Jersey, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." You know, Flavor Flav is from New Jersey. I met Redman. All of them were all identifying like this black dude from New Jersey and came out here to LA and opened up a dispensary on Hollywood Boulevard. There was very few blacks doing it at the time, and that was my business. Very few blacks were doing it at the time, and I was on Hollywood Boulevard. That was like unheard of.
Yeah.
So,
now which movie were you in?
There's a movie that's still playing right now on Netflix called Forgiven. I think it's called The Forgiven.
Okay.
I just recently had somebody say, "Man, I was watching a movie and I saw you in it." He's like, "What did you do in the movie?" I was like, "Yeah, I was in a movie called How Weed Won the West."
Okay.
I did a bunch of commercials and a bunch of shows. I mean, I was in LA. Like, I'm a narcissist. You know, hey, I'm in LA. I'm going to go try to get into TV. I did. So for like 4 years, I got little bit parts in this, little bit parts in that. I got an IMDb page, if you know what an IMDb page is.
Yes.
You go to IMDb and put my name in. You can put my name in as Ed Forchion or NJWeedman. I still pop up.
Wow.
And so I was getting in little parts. Like, so I'm living my Hollywood story. That's how I feel.
Yes. And
then Burlington County sticks the DEA on me and destroys my Hollywood life, my California life, which brought me back here, an angry black man. Everybody else thought I was crazy, but I just had a mission. I was on a mission, and and I went to war. The fact that the city of Trenton got in the way, it wasn't my goal. My goal was the state. It wasn't. I just happened to be here at the state capital. Yes. So I had a whole bunch of battles with the city of Trenton, but my real goal was the governor's office, Governor Christie, the state legislators. That's who I looked at as my adversary. The fact of the matter, I was across the street from City Hall was second fiddle. So I wish I could have got a place across the street from the state capitol. Wow. But there's no place like this there. Yeah. So when I spotted this place across the street from City Hall just became a symbol of government to me. Yeah. And I started putting up signs. I'm on Fox 29 talking about, I'm opening up a weed shop, dispensary. No, I didn't call it a dispensary right then. I was still calling it a temple. Yes. And I was saying, I had a backyard that I called the Cannabis courtyard back then.
Yes.
And yes, you can smoke marijuana here. I remember the Wall Street Journal came like, what the hell is this guy doing? And even though they depicted the story well, if you look up the Wall Street Journal, WSJ,
yes.
and comma NJWeedman, Google it. There's a couple stories from the Wall Street Journal. And to be honest with you, they did me very well. And the Wall Street Journal is read by everyone all across the world.
Absolutely.
So the Wall Street Journal, Vice News, the Associated Press, all these people came to say, yo, this guy done opened up a weed spot in the state capitol, down the street from the state capitol, down 2 doors down from the federal courthouse,
yes.
and the federal courthouse, by the way, has a DEA office in there, and across the street, from City Hall. They were like, wait a minute, this guy opened up a business, and it's not even legal.
Yeah.
And and I went to war. People thought I was crazy, but
yes.
every little bit of information I had got when they had locked me up with their books,
yes.
I used.
Yes.
So I was following motions. I was representing myself. Oh, by the way, here's one of the most important facts I like people to know when they start talking about all the crazy shit I did. I tell people all the time, I got Mayweather numbers.
Yeah.
Here in Mercer County,
yes.
I'm 40-1.
Yes.
And I represent myself in every single one of those cases.
Yes.
I have a better record as a pro se litigant than any lawyer in the state of New Jersey.
And I believe it, right?
This is a fact.
Yeah.
I'm 40-1. And the only case that technically I lost, really, I didn't fight it. But the only case that but I can see how I could have won. The only case that I lost, I don't know if you remember, when I went over to City Hall mad about something one day, City Council, I was mad at City Council not taking up a vote, and I went in there and smoked the joint, was calling them cowards.
No, I don't remember that one.
Oh, yeah, Google that.
Okay.
Just Google City Hall, Weedman smokes a joint, calls City Council cowards. Yeah, there was a few stories about that. All the newspapers covered that one, too. But I never fought that case. They found me guilty later. I didn't go to court or nothing. Like, that's how mad I was about it and didn't care. And then it was like 5 people that went and smoked with me, but they only prosecuted me. So I called it selective prosecution. Yeah. So I didn't go. And they found me guilty in abstention.
Yes.
The fine, I didn't even pay the fine. One day, the public defender, I think his name was, you might even know him, right here in Dwayne Williamson, I think his name is.
Yeah, I know.
He paid my fine because he said, like, why? We're like, they're gonna arrest you for not paying the fine. I asked him about it one day. Yeah. He's gonna say, why did you want, like? Because I was like, man, F them. I ain't paying them. I ain't this. I was in my FU mode. I was mad about something. Yeah. I don't know. I refused to pay anything. I was arguing with him. I was giving everybody the finger and doing whatever I was doing. And but he was the public defender that day. I always represent myself, but sometimes I have a public defender or somebody with me. Yes. And he was the public defender, and I walked out of court and everything. Like, I don't care. And like I'm not dealing with this. Like he paid the fine for me because he just didn't want to see me locked up for it. and every now and then when I see him, he'll say, "Yo, when do I get my $700 back?" I didn't I tell you to pay that, man. Yeah. You know, whatever. But I'm 40-1 around here.
That's fantastic, brother. That's fantastic.
When they made it legal, that was it. Like I really put the afterburners on after that.
You did. You have.
You know, I went from doing what I was doing to, you know, selling weed like I was white. Yeah. People was like, "We do selling weed like you was white." I said, "Google all the CEOs of these marijuana companies. They're all white guys." Yeah. I said, "You know what? I'm not getting off of this cannabis." In my Rosa Parks voice, yes, I'm not getting off this cannabis. Yes, I'm selling weed like I'm white. Yeah. I'm not getting off the bus. I'm not getting to the back of the bus. Yes, I'm riding this cannabis. And you know, people thought I was crazy about that too. But you know, for the pandemic, I had 500 people a day coming here. I was doing better than McDonald's. Wow. I was doing better than McDonald's. Listen. For 3 years. Yes. Sometimes I don't like saying numbers because, you know, I don't want nobody, you know, I don't say numbers.
And that's
but,
okay.
Yeah. Good night. Thank you for staying late. Thank you.
But
they pay you? They pay you extra? Okay. They're gonna give it to you. We already had a conversation. Okay. Public chicken. All right. See you later. I hear you. I'm at my business, and somebody didn't come in, so she stayed 2 hours extra. I was just making sure she got paid.
But listen, here's what I want to do, because I've got a hard stop though. But I want to ask you one question, right? And then I want to, when we get offline, I want to schedule another time to do part 2. But here's one thing I wanted to share with you. You've got 420 coming up again in April. What are you doing this year for your 420 celebration?
Okay. Because it's gonna be better. It's gonna be better than last year.
Okay, because last year, man, here we go again. I'm like, I gotta talk to that brother, because I don't know if he's really functioning with a full deck, man.
But I've been, like I said, I alluded to the fact that my uncle and my dad used to say that I read from right to left.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of things I think out of the box.
Yes.
People sometimes say, "Oh, what the hell? Where'd that come from?" Like so last year, every year I for a few years now I've been having 420 events, April 20th event.
Yes.
Last year I was able to get this young girl who was on her way to be on the A-list. She's definitely there now.
Yes.
The Sukiana girl.
Yeah, Sukiaki, yeah. Woo.
Yeah, she so I had her. And we had 3,000 or 4,000 people that came here that day, and it was raining. Yes. But she did her thing. Half of Trenton came out. It seemed like everybody had a great time.
But here's my
I got a better one this year.
Oh my God! Listen, see.
Yes.
When you say better, I don't know what better means, because I'm just going to tell you this, right? I had no idea who she was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to Google her, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this guy is really crazy, because I know that kind of music she was like ratchet, man.
Yes. She was the top ratchet girl at the time.
Yeah, and I said to myself, now, what I thought you should have done, because you got that private backyard.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have did Sukiani in your private backyard and charged more to do a private event, I would have been cool with that. But man, she was, her language, I can't even repeat it on my own podcast, man.
Yeah, she's there. But you know what?
Yeah.
That's what these young people were looking at or listening to. I would tell you 20, 30 years ago, I would have been embarrassed too.
Yes.
That when I said that I had her contact and we were booking her,
yes, I
had a couple people saying why.
Yes,
like even one of my daughters. I have 4 daughters.
Yes,
one of my daughters was questioning it. The other two was like, what? She's coming for real? And the funny thing was that event went off without a hitch. There was no violence. There was no fights. There was nothing. It was great. The only thing that was a negative was it rained at the end. And she still was performing in the rain.
Yeah.
You
Thank God it rained, because I only imagine how raunchier she would have been if the sun came out, man. She had one song where she talked about, I'm going to screw your man, and then when I'm done, I'm going to screw you. Talking about her doing the female. I'm like, oh my God. I said, what is the weed man doing?
Yo, she was in her limo, yes, and was letting chicks climb in the limo and hump her. Like it was, there's video of it. I ain't gotta say it. There's video of it.
Oh,
but it was crazy. It was definitely crazy. I happened to be at City Hall a couple of days later at went to City Council for something, and when I was in there was some lady in there complaining about them allowing her to be here, to do that, and everybody in there knew I was the one who brought it. The lady who was complaining didn't even know that was me sitting in there. That's what I thought was funny. Wow. And as she's complaining about that guy across the street, he had this raunchy chick here, and that should have been ashamed of himself. All these kids here seeing that. And to me, listen, everybody's not going to like everything.
Yeah.
I can remember when I was a young kid, all our parents didn't want to hear Rick James.
Yeah.
She's way worse than Rick James. But remember, Rick James ran around with some girls called the Nasty Girls. If I remember right. Yeah. But this year, no, it didn't go nasty. But it is the A-lister.
Okay.
We've already signed a contract and everything, but we have not released who it is yet.
Gotcha.
But when we do, like within a week, we're going to release it. We actually just got the photos that we're going to use for the flyers and stuff, and there's a whole promo campaign for it.
Gotcha.
So I can't drop the ball now.
Understood.
But it's the A-lister. He was actually in the paper today. I happened to be doing something online today and saw a big story about him today. He's actually in London, so some people may know. Nobody's going to guess this off of this podcast.
Gotcha.
But he's in London. He's in London this weekend, and he did a couple events in London, and he made all the press in London. And I'm saying to myself, 2 months from now, he's going to be in Trenton, New Jersey.
Wow, listen, all I can say, man, is thank you, because you certainly are an entrepreneur who you're dancing and creating your own beat, man. I love it. Mm-hmm. We may not appreciate everything that you do, but we love how you function within the realms of the entrepreneurial spirit, brother.
I hear you. But listen to what I think about that.
Yeah.
Right? And this is with everything. I told you my birthday's in July.
Yes.
I do consider myself a Leo. I am way out there in Leo world too.
Yes.
So I usually don't care what the sheep's blah, 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 blah about.
Yes.
Because I don't need their opinion for to roar when I want to roar. I'm going to roar.
Yes.
So I always do things. I don't care what anybody says. I just do it. If you don't like it, blah, 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 blah.
Gotcha. Hey,
I always felt that way.
So listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to call this one part 1, because I know there's so much more to your story. There's so much more to your movement. There's so much more to your industry that you're building right across the street from Trenton City Hall that we need to talk about. So if it's okay with you, we're going to call this one part 2, and then I'm going to schedule some time in the next couple of days for us to do part 2 when you're ready, man.
All right, I'm down. I'm down. And I want your listeners that, at certain points during our conversation, I said, Google this, Google that.
Yes.
So when you put it up, I want your listeners to really do that, because then they're going to get some of the backstory. They'll be like, what the hell? He did what? Oh my, he did what? Yeah. So, and trust me, I've been like this since I was a kid.
And we love it, Ed. We love it, man. We love it, brother.
All right. All right. Till next time. Till part 2.
Yeah, till part 2, brother. Thank you so much, man. Do I say, how do I end? Do I say keep it smoky? What do I say?
Puff, puff, pass.
Okay, puff, puff, pass. All right, brother.
Good enough. All right. Peace.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Peace.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.